About 6 weeks ago, these dormant tubers were unpacked and set up to break into growth to provide cutting material for this season. And the reason we take cuttings is because the best plants are always produced on new young growth. And although the tubers themselves will go on and produce flowering plants, the performance of cuttings will always outstrip them. Inspect the plants carefully because what may seem the obvious choice doesn't necessarily mean it is the best. So what you're looking for are short plants that are quite close to the tuber itself. You look at this one, it's quite stocky, but if you cut it there, that could end up with a hollow stem which will never root. The only way that you can really get a decent cut in is to take it off quite close to the tuber itself. Now this one is short, it's firm at the base, and what we're looking to do is just to cut it as close to the mother tuber as possible by putting a knife in the back and just slicing it away. And we'll show now, you can just see you're cutting just below the lowest part. It's a bit awkward sometimes, but you need to tidy these up afterwards as well. And now we're looking for the second cut in, just to go with it. We have 3 left, and the one that I'm picking is surrounded by a little sort of crown of other shoots that may grow on. So if we take this cut in and it fails, at least we have 3 or 4 behind it, plus 2 shoots already on the plant. So once again, we cut it longer than we really want, and as you can see, the stem is solid there. We now need to prepare the cuttings, and the first thing that you do is to remove the lower foliage from them, because this fleshy material will only rot once it's put into the rooting compost. So look around, and you need to make the cutting as short as possible. So just trim back in stages. We remove a little bit here, and then what you do then is to pull these lower leaves away. And because these plants have no roots at this stage, you just give them a little crop top to reduce the leaf area size, and this will help to control transpiration. And there you can see the ideal shoot, quite short, quite stocky. It's now time to turn our attention to the larger cutting, and the principle is exactly the same. Just go in and remove all the excess fleshy growth at the bottom, because as I say, you don't want this rotting under the surface. So gently peel it away. I like to put my thumb underneath it and pull against the thumb. That way you prevent the risk of snapping the stem if you want to. And then look at it, and once again, we can still shorten it. And I like to cut it back to where, just below where the cutting darkens then. So you have a sort of a ready appearance of the cutting, and the rest of the shoot is green. And this is why sometimes you'll find Dahlia cuttings are referred to as green plants. And here we're still removing some of the foliage to reduce the transpiration, take the strain off the plant. And to show there's no fragmentism, you'll get a crop top as well. And then that's the process finished. The cuttings are now ready for putting into the growing medium. When I'm rooting soft or fleshy cuttings, I like to use a cedar cutting compost, but I add some extra grit to it to improve the drainage, because the one thing that these plants are very susceptible at this stage will be moisture retention, too much water there, so it'll help shed it. The other thing that the grit does as well is it tends to rough up the base of the cutting and the sides where the growth hormones are, so it helps the cutting to root as well. I like to add enough grit so you can actually hear the compost crunching, and actually you can feel it between your fingers as well, and you know then that there's enough drainage there so the water can run away quite freely. I use small pots and pot them up individually. The reason for this is if one does begin to rot, then it won't set a rot off with the rest. And also, more importantly, from what I'm concerned, is it makes them more easily to transplant, because they all root and grow at different rates, and the root forms as it will fill the pot. And just tap it down to settle the compost. And the next thing I like to do is just sprinkle some grit across the surface, because I don't use rooting hormone, because these cuttings have got plenty of growth hormone in them already. But I say, once again, it's just an extra sort of precaution that when you push the cutting into the compost, some of the grit goes down with it. So now we're ready for the final task with the kittens themselves. Actually get them into the pot, hold them, put your finger at the back just to support it, and gently press them in. Don't squeeze the neck too hard, up to the leaf joint. And the same with this. Push it in, up to the joint, and that's it. Thing is to water them in to settle the compost around them. Start off with the rows away from the pot, run around and finish up so you don't drown them. Let it drain, and then you know the water's gone all the way through, and you take them out, put them on a bench for a short while, and that's it. The most important thing now is to give them as much help as we can to grow. So we put them inside a propagator, keep the lid on overnight mainly. I would take it off during the day, but what you need to do is to put them somewhere shady. Could be in the greenhouse, under the bench, but not in direct sunlight and not where they get too warm. Open the vents so they can vent quite freely. Back to the kittens. Every day, check them first thing in the morning before the sun really gets on them. Take the lid away and give them a gentle misting over, and this once again helps them until they start to root. And you'll know when they root in because you'll see fresh growth come in from the central tip. But just mist them in the morning, midday, middle of the afternoon, around 4 o'clock, and then don't put them sort of to bed in the evening wet, and make sure the leaves and all the foliage are dry. Then all you have to do is just wait for them to grow. Diolch, and thank you for watching. Goodbye for now, but if you would like to see any more, please hit the subscribe and like buttons.